Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Zach Griff. Zach, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
The greatest joy for me is not what we're going to get into because it's going to be awesome and I'm very excited, is the fact that I just found out that you're a native Floridian, and those who should be watching, because the video is much better than the audio, will see that over your left shoulder is the great city and borough of Manhattan, city of New York, borough of Manhattan, where my heart truly lies. And so just speaking to someone who has decided to make it their life's mission to become a better person and move to New York City, it means a lot to me that you would spend the time with me.
You know, the crazy thing is that part of it is definitely my wife. Because if I had my way, we would be back in Florida at some point. But yeah, I grew up in Boca. I grew up in Boca Raton, South Florida, probably familiar to many people. And I started migrating north as kind of the years went on. I went to college in Philly, moved to New York, to Manhattan after college. Actually went back to Philly for the past 2 years, got an MBA. So a little bit of a boomerang there, but now back. We're on the Upper West Side. We're doing the family life. Just had a daughter less than a year ago. So very much a new chapter for us, but enjoying it nonetheless.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. And I tell people in every episode, read the bio because you'll get a lot out of it. Your bio is amazing, obviously, but everyone should know who you are. And if you don't know who Zach is, I don't know what rock you've been living under because you're losing a tremendous amount of free value that he provides basically every single day and a lot of entertainment. But I want to ask you, so the points guy, Zach, the how, what happened? You're like a regular guy,
Yeah.
Yeah. Who all of a sudden, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an NBA player or a police officer. Presumably nobody wakes up and says, hey, I want to be the points guy.
Yeah.
And fly 1 million miles and over 1,000 flights. Like, sure, go for it.
So I definitely didn't grow up maybe thinking that I'd be doing something crazy like this, but it wasn't too far after kind of really like coming to doing a bunch of traveling with the family and also learning a lot about the credit card game. This was back in, the early 2000s when cards and points were really just starting to take off. And I remember my dad at one point, he came home and had this mailer from American Express. And I was like, what is this? And I was at the time in high school, maybe 15, 16 years old or whatnot. But I had plenty of time to investigate. And as I started to really unpack it and we learned a little bit more about the credit cards and the frequent flyer programs and what we can do with all these miles, that's when it became, okay, clearly there's something here. But I grew up in a traditionally Jewish house. There is no world in which I was ever expected to be someone who's traveling all the time and talking about travel. It was very much you're a doctor or a lawyer or someone in a very traditional.
You should meet his brother. He's a doctor.
Seriously, like there was no world in which, and it's funny because I went to college, I studied economics, and I went to go work in consulting like so many of my peers and whatnot, because I didn't really think anything of my career other than, you go work in your consulting firm and then you maybe go to banking or whatever, and you just kind of follow the path. But it was funny because it was in 2017 that a friend of mine from high school who knew about this passion that I had really on the side for travel and aviation and frequent flyer and loyalty and all this stuff, had noticed that the Points Guy, it was still, very early in its infancy really as a Points and Miles blog, had posted on Snapchat, like to their Snapchat story, which is like such a throwback. And I know Snapchat's like kind of in maybe, not for me. I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and stuff. But at the time on Snapchat, that they were looking for someone to join the rapidly growing team, contribute more on, kind of the travel side. And I was like, hey, I've really never written maybe more than 2 essays in my entire life. And I certainly don't really know how to take pictures or videos. And I was like, but I'm seriously possessed in my mind, like the most passion for this space that probably anyone has. And it was at that point that I was like, okay, screw it. I'm going to apply. And if I don't get it, great. If I get it, awesome. Like I will leave this newfound career that I at the time I think I was working in consulting for like 9 months, and it was like unheard of for essentially like a new grad to just like go and leave. But this was what my passion was, and when I got it, it was like, okay, well, let's see where it goes.
So there's a lot there to unpack, and I want to focus in on one of the specific things that you just said, and that is, and I believe I'm getting the quote correct. The point in 20, whenever you got started, the points game was just becoming a thing, and then you got into it. And the reason why I think that's important is because on the Keep Hustling podcast, one of the things that we do is try to inspire people to chase their hustle and to realize that you mentioned that you're a new father, like your wife's hustle and my wife's hustle far different than ours. New motherhood, not for me. And I say that my wife, who's the mother of 5 children and takes the CEO of our household, she hustles a lot harder than I do. But at what point does a person realize that a game, quote unquote, and a passion can become a business? And how do you, at that point, take the leap to do that?
You know, it's funny. I think there's a few things to really unpack there. And I think the first thing is, in my mind, like this is a lifelong kind of push and pull between like, hey, I'm really trying to pursue my passion, the thing that I want to hustle for. And nevertheless, like, who still knows if like in a year or 5 years or 10 years from now, if I want to be creating content and thinking about, this space. And so I think like, even for me, like the evolution, and we can get into some of this stuff, but like where I started in, let's say the late 2010s to where we are now. And obviously I've kind of had my business school thing and whatnot, but nevertheless, like there have been so many changes just in the way that I deliver content. And I think about this whole space in a way that makes it such that, if I didn't have that hustle and that passion for ultimately like what I'm talking about and thinking about all day long, like I would have been burned out, after 6 months. And so I think that, really going back to where you going back to like really where you kind of asked that question, like to me, it's really it's figuring out that thing in my mind that keeps you up at night, that really has you, outside of your family and your friends and whatever, like what is that thing? And for me, it's no question, airplanes, airlines, loyalty programs, credit cards, this whole space in a way that, it doesn't for basically anything else.
And that's amazing to me because it's the passion drives. I said to you before we went live, you have to get to a point where for content or for the exposure or for the brands, you have to get on a flight today. Like some of the times, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that I have followed some of your journey where like you've literally taken a flight just for the sake of taking the flight, having nothing to do with like the destination, just like experience the flight. And then presumably when you fly somewhere for that purpose, you have to return home from a place that you have no business or personal reason to be in. And I imagine that just like any other job, people, it looks very glamorous, obviously, but you probably some days don't really want to get up and go through security, even if you have whatever, TSA pre and clear, and you probably know all the people at many of the airports by first name. I also think that there's a certain level of expertise in any field that if a person is passionate enough about, that's where the real secret sauce is. Yes, evolving from a world where social media wasn't really a thing to now an Instagram thing to the Twitter thing, all that kind of stuff. And I follow you on all the platforms. I'm not a Snapchat person either, but that is almost a pivot that every business has to make in order to be in the modern era. But in the same way, I feel like people who originally hear about what you do, or probably then said, this is stupid. Like, what do you mean? Like you open a credit card, you just do it. Like there's no business, there's no gamification, for lack of a better term. There's none of that. And yet you double down and like probably read the terms and conditions and know about probably exactly which day you can open a new card and how it impacts your credit.
I definitely have multiple spreadsheets running at any one time, not only with credit card trackers, but how am I progressing towards my loyalty program statuses each year? How am I doing with taking advantage? And, these card issuers, and I'm sure so many of the listeners, here can totally empathize with this, but like they made it so much harder to navigate your credits and all the different benefits, and like you now have to enroll in some and the others are auto enrolled. You have to switch your Lyft. I mean, it's becoming, in many ways, it's funny, like you have to, as I say, really love this, certainly to be thinking about it to the level that I do, but also to become a maximizer in this space. It's not just following the Points Guy and Dan Steele's and the other blogs and whatnot, because yeah, like sure, it looks great. And going back to your point about going to like fly across the world just for a flight or for whatever the experience is, like, yeah, I do that. But like, no, undoubtedly, if you're not in love and passionate and hustling around this, like you will not only burn out, but it will be abundantly clear to the people who are following you or reading you or engaging with you that like this is just not your thing.
By the way, I think that the credit card companies have figured out that there's geniuses like you that are on the back end. But it's almost like, and this is a confession, I have 2 credit cards. This is like, I know,
Are you earning
like
points or are you cash back?
No, I'm earning points. The problem that I have is that I don't want to be the person, and this is totally a sidebar, but like it makes me nervous. Like the abundance of cards makes me nervous. So I've kind of I actually just opened one up yesterday because my daughter.
Because we were scheduled to talk. And so it was
right. No, I know. And my daughter's going to high school and I wanted her to have a card. And I said, hold on a second. The card my primary credit card has a high fee for additional users. And there's a bonus for new cards. And I think that I've reached but other than that, when a person actually thinks about what has to go through your mind, every single time you want to swipe your card. I had an idea for an invention where it was a card that just maximized, like you were in the supermarket.
And just like automatically chose. Yeah.
Today on August 12th, it knew that at this 7-Eleven, the best card, but whatever, that never happened. But I also think that it's a level of expertise. It's almost like, and I hope that this doesn't offend you. Do you ever watch Extreme Couponers? Yep. Those people that go and buy $1,000 worth of groceries and the store gives them $200 back. Everybody thinks, oh, that's easy. I'm going to do it. I'm going to become a couponer. I myself started my own email address just for coupons. I did it for exactly 3 weeks. And I was like, forget that. And I think that people don't realize the actual real knowledge and expertise that it takes. And the fact that unlike most other industries, forgetting about the fact that you said, which is common in the world, that the industry could quote unquote disappear or evolve or the job has to change. I feel like that in insurance also. But it's totally in the hands of other people. Like the airlines could just, right? This co-chair can end tomorrow. This card could say they're no longer.
It happens all the time, right? And I think like that's why, if I think about like life lessons and points, it's like use your damn points, like don't hoard them. There's so many changes on like the benefits and just like if you're gonna maximize, do it. Don't save for the rainy day or whatnot, because again, like we see this all the time where the loyalty, it says like, hey, you're going to get a business class ticket from New York to Paris for 50,000 miles. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, crap. Well, the airline decided that it's no longer profitable for us to do it at 50. And now it's 75. But you just went and earned those 50. And now you have to, close the gap to 20 to additional 25. It's like this happens all the freaking time. And, it goes back to what you're saying. Like you have to be on top of this as someone, if you're trying to maximize, if you're trying to like kind of really rally behind this idea. And if you're me, then you're like, hey, I need to be on top of this and doing the research and seeing what the programs are charging, what the changes are, where are the updates in terms and conditions. I cannot tell you how many airline, hotel, credit card, website pages I could almost recite from rote memory. And these days I've worked on kind of automating a lot of that stuff, so I don't have to think about it anymore. But when I did, it was a seriously, kind of very boring, but also rewarding because it's like, I'm now the expert.
But also, and I think that there's also a certain level of responsibility to the consumer.
Yeah, of course.
Like in any advice, the point I'm making is you invented a trusted advisor for this travel space. And I think that that's so incredible because I imagine that there are people who told you you're complete. And that's why I think it's amazing is that there's a certain level of responsibility. Not that anyone's perfect and not that these things can't change over time. But like if you drop a deal and you say, like, don't hoard your points. People, if you follow me, this is the day. Yeah. Just do it. And then somebody does. And the next day it drops, let's say, and gets better. It's like, Points Guy, I'm done with him because he messed me over. Do you think that people are scared to use their points? This is not about hustle, but I have a hustle question about it. And that is, when does a person know that they should execute on anything in life? Like you said, don't hoard your points. I'm a historic points hoarder. I am the child of 2 legendary points hoarders. Legendary. My mother, I don't think she's living with me. My father should rest in peace. I don't think they ever used the point. They were supposed to. My father got sick for a vacation. I'm talking about probably millions of points. Never used them. Never.
I hope that someone, I hope
Because
that, you know, that you can, there are ways to kind of transfer them to friends and family. So
yeah, but no, but then my mother says, "What do you mean they're my
yeah,
points? Like I want to use them one day. Like what if I want to?" Like mom, so then just use them. But somebody told me that I might be able to get a better deal if I pay cash for it. I'm like, there is no better deal than the money that you've already like. Not which
yeah.
airline you should fly or which hotel because of this. So yeah, I just do you think that people are scared? Like what is it?
Yeah, I mean, right. So ultimately, I think that one of the things that people love about this space and like what I do is like people want to be maximized. It goes back to like what you're talking about with like the couponing, right? You did it for 3 weeks and then you're like, okay, screw this, I'm out. And I think it's the same with points. It's like, hey, I could do better, and right, like I think it's very sexy when I post something or say like I redeemed 50,000 points and I'm flying in first class and I paid only $200 and I got a private terminal and I got to eat and drink whatever the heck I wanted. And then I landed and there was a car waiting for me to pick me up and I did that again for 50,000 points. And so people see that and they're like, okay, well, if I'm not replicating that experience, then I'm not making that redemption. And that's really the wrong way to think about it, right? Like, prior to my daughter, essentially unlimited flexibility with the blessing of my wife and family, which has been great. But now I'm far less flexible. I'm thinking about my time and kid vacations and time off for my wife for work and whatnot. And so and now I'm not redeeming in the same way that I used to. And like, sure, it's not great because I could be flying in first class if I left on Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. But so be it, because we want to get there before the weekend on Friday morning, and it is what it is. And so I think that for so many people, it's like, hey, just kind of like, figure out whatever that baseline is for you. There has to, I mean, there is 100% a baseline, because if you're redeeming your points inefficiently, you should just be getting a cashback credit card. I think like that's a very clear benchmark in which to kind of evaluate your points redemption patterns against. But assuming that you're okay with where you are, just pull the trigger. And so many people struggle with pulling that trigger.
Okay, you just triggered a bunch of random questions for me. First of all, what was your pitch to your wife? Was it, I will take you on the craziest honeymoon ever and it will be free? Like, you have to be okay with me traveling like a total lunatic at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday because I found a deal and it's this morning and I'm flying later today. But free honeymoon, craziest thing you'll ever imagine, and you'll never have to fly coach.
It's funny. We started dating in college when really the passion and the hustle around this became like very evident and clear to her that I'm going to eventually like end up probably doing something a little bit non-traditional. I think like so she's a corporate lawyer. And so my wife is a corporate lawyer. She fully understands what it means to kind of work very, very hard behind a desk. And that's great. But I think she also recognizes that when she has breaks, and certainly before our daughter was born, like we were taking like some pretty killer vacations. We were going to places like Bali and Southeast Asia and, Europe every summer, Africa on safari. Like, and our honeymoon was like 3.5 weeks. And like, yes, like obviously that's all very exciting and whatnot. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is, I think people do their best work when they're doing something they care about. And so I think for her, it's really like the pitch was like, hey, like I really care about this. This is something I want to keep doing. And I think like now that we have a daughter, right? So it's obviously changed the perspective on when I'm traveling. I'm doing a lot more, going back to what you're saying about like going to fly somewhere just to fly back. Like I have a lot, in many cases, the option to extend or spend some time on the ground, explore a new destination. But now it's like, can I do this activity or event or this opportunity in a single day? Or can I, what can I do to minimize my time away from home? It's far more taxing on me, physically, but it also, yields a lot more rewards on the back end. And so I think that for me, it's now, and for us, it's really about figuring out where the new priority lies. I'll give you an example. JetBlue, and this went super viral, like they're having this promotion now where if you fly by the end of the year to 25 unique destinations, you will earn 25 years of entry-level Mosaic status. So that's their, elite tier, and 350,000 points. And, not only is this like such a, in my mind, like I love this type of puzzle because it's like, how can I get to those 25 destinations as cheaply as possible to, maximize the value of the points. And then I don't have to, slog it in JetBlue flights, over the next 25 years because I know I'll have entry level status. So it's not like, I have to spend money on the credit card or do whatever it takes. And so I'm like really gung ho about doing this. And I have a lot of friends and folks who I know in the space who are also like want to complete this challenge. But a lot of them are like, hey, well, I'll take a weekend in Nantucket and a weekend in Martha's Vineyard and a weekend in San Diego and, San Juan. And basically like, oh, great. Like JetBlue's route network will now become my kind of weekend destination for the end of the year. And for me, it's like, I want to do this in as short amount of time as possible, obviously with, minimal cash outlay.
Can I hit 25 destinations in 4 days just getting on and off flights for it?
And like for me, I'll be dead by the end of it, but I'll make great content out of it, and it's like super cool, and like I really want to do it. So yeah.
I just want you to know that when I saw that, I thought only a psychopath would ever, or someone who does it professionally. Like the casual person, I believe that they did that as a shtick where like you obviously do this professionally and you have to, there's no person who's working a quote unquote normal 9 to 5 or 8 to 6, whatever job. It's impossible. There's no, you can't do it.
It's funny. I would have thought the same thing. But I'm starting to hear folks. It's funny. I had a friend who was just on this past weekend. He went down to Nashville just for the 2 hours, just so that he could add Nashville to his list of 25 destinations. And he told me that every other person in his row was doing the exact same thing as part of this. I guess he found like a super cheap fare, so like everyone else was doing it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know. For 25, that's a lot of flying that most people, even if they think they're doing it, I imagine that by November, December, they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to settle with 15 or whatever.
Right, and get nothing out of it. Can I ask your number one travel tip or hack for the average person? Not the super consumer, not the person who has a wallet that's this thick, but like, what is the entry level? You said if you're not using your points, cash back. But like, what should every person who's just building their credit or just getting into this or doesn't have unlimited money to spend on vacations or experiences, like, first, how do you get started? And second of all, like, give me like a gem of a hack that I don't know, like a type of shoes that I should be wearing on a flight or something. Give me something on like that.
I think that for folks who are thinking about like the easy kind of, let's get into this space and start earning points. To me, Chase is by far and away the most beginner friendly as it relates to redeeming your points and finding like really good valuable options to use them. Obviously, everyone knows about the Sapphire Reserve and Sapphire Preferred cards, and they've gone through some changes over the past few weeks, but nevertheless, there are still opportunities to beat cash back by using those cards. And so that to me is like a very clear, maybe get the Sapphire, even if it's the Preferred, to start out with and start redeeming those points, potentially layer in an additional no annual fee Chase card. And that's like a very easy strategy that for, 80%, especially if you're starting out, like that's great. A gem of a travel hack, I have a few, but I think like one of the ones that, I'm also super into tech, and I love like travel gear and travel tech. I just like, I've always been a fan.
My wife knows that I have a conference coming up when a random piece of like a new bag that fits cords more efficiently ends up in our
And so it's funny because a lot of people, myself included, for many years complain on airplanes that their power plugs fall out of the outlets because they're too heavy or whatnot. And I almost had this aha moment because I'm sure like you, especially if you have all the cords, like I'm always traveling with an international travel adapter because I never know, where I may end up the next day. And those international travel adapters, particularly the European 2-prong ones, are, the universal outlets on the planes are really used to the American 2-prong. If you throw on the European prong, it will stick in, like fit like a glove, and it doesn't fall out. Even the heaviest MacBook Pro charger, that weighs like what feels like 5 pounds, it just like it fits amazingly.
I was totally not expecting that. That is legendary. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Okay,
because what I used to do is I used to have like my freaking foot like contorted with the bag so that the power outlet, because it's like,
or the person gets up to go to the bathroom and you just had it in the perfect spot and you thought it was still charging. That's why like the ones with the screens, even though they're less for a phone, at least, even though it's less powerful, it's like you can see what's going on there. But like I don't leave home without a power bank, without every single cord and without every single cord. But that adapter, I'm going to do that now. Even domestic flights.
Yeah, of course. Why not? Because it all works. And domestically, think about how many people are using a European adapter on a domestic flight versus them using, US. So, if too many people are watching this, then like maybe in 10 years we'll have this issue. But I promise you, it is legendary.
This is so good. Oh my God, this is so good. Okay, this is great. Where is the points guy in 5 years? I've never asked this question to anybody on the podcast, but you're I think the most acutely and uniquely aware of the ever-changing landscape of your.
Yeah, I mean, I think that listen, right? If anything, the points guy is going to be more needed. And the points guy, and folks like the points guy, right? So the points guy, I would say in many ways was like the first in the space. There's obviously become a whole industry of folks around, what we do. But I think that this is a necessity for the traveling public in a way that it may not have been 10 years ago. The airlines, the hotel chains, the credit card companies are making it increasingly harder to extract value, to get your rewards, to figure out, what you need to do to kind of like move up to that next tier and redeem your points. And I think that in 5 years, it's, obviously everyone talks about AI and how does that will help. I think, that dramatically helps personalize the experience for people and make it clear to them for their particular situation what they should be doing and what type of redemption might make more sense. But I think I'm convinced, and I feel that this is my job, so inherently I'm going to be convinced. But this is only kind of scratching the surface because it's almost like a push and pull, right? Because as more and more people crop up and talk about maximizing, so the programs make it harder, and so the harder it is, the more you need someone like the points guy. And so I'm really excited for what the next few years are going to bring.
Is there a points guy concierge advisory service?
It's funny that we've thought about kind of doing something like that. So many people have very, very unique. Yeah, it's hard to put the right word to it, but people are very specific about what they want. I'll give you an example, actually. So way back when in college, I was living in a house with like 9 other guys, and we could pay our rent with credit cards. So I managed my house and a bunch of other houses. I would earn the points on my own credit card, and then I would help other people like with redemptions, and I would start charging them with like figuring out what credit cards they should open, and if they're going on spring break, how do you use points and whatnot. And it was a de facto concierge service way back at the start. And holy hell, it was miserable because it's like, okay, I only want to take that 4:00 flight on the Thursday that gets me in the afternoon. Like that one's not available, but you can take the 3:00. And they're like, no, it doesn't work. Or like, yeah, it works.
And it's going to cost you double. And they're like, no, you told me that it was 25,000 points.
And by the end, I was like, this is not sustainable. Like everyone needs to make their, because you can educate yourself very, very well on essentially everything in this space right now. And you can go out and make those decisions yourselves. And obviously, education is costly in terms of your time. And it'd be great if someone else does it for you. But that's really why potentially like AI could be deployed one day to, solve that question. Right now, it can't. I've obviously played around with all the models. It's so funny, like what it will tell you to do, with like points and stuff. It's just, you can listen to it.
And you're like, no, that's actually wrong. I can actually tell you that's wrong. Yeah, no, that's stupid. Last question before we move to our close, and that is, if you don't want to answer this, I get it because you may get heat, but favorite airline experience and favorite airport lounge that you've ever been to. I'm not going to ask you the least. I'm not going to ask you the least because I really don't want you to get in trouble, but favorite airline experience, I'm guessing I know what you're going to say, but the lounge is one that I'm really super curious about because I'm a lounge
Both
guy.
Fantastic questions. I'd say the favorite like, for me, it's more about the flight than the hotel. I think like one of the cool things about hotels these days, especially in like the luxury top space, is like, if you're not at the Four Seasons, you can be at the Ritz or the Shangri-La or the St. Regis. And so like, in a lot of them, they don't have to be cookie cutter, but they're all like, there are a bunch of really good ones across the world. The flight experience, I think for me is hands down Emirates in first class. It is an unbelievable experience. Like it's funny because if you think about the airport lounge, they actually have their first class lounge. It's massive, but it is like the least personal and like luxurious of kind of its peer set. But once you are on that plane and
because they know they're like, who cares? We're about to blow this guy's mind for the next X number of hours. Who cares about where he gets his Diet Coke before he gets on the plane?
100%. And like, it's funny because a lot of people in our space are like, oh, I go to the lounge and whatnot. And I'm like, I will go to a lounge. Obviously I travel way too much to spend too much of my time in the lounge because then it's like I'm literally living in airports. But I only go to the lounge if it's like a very unique and special experience nowadays. Otherwise, you'll literally find me at the gate, like just editing content or writing or just catching up with a friend or something.
Speakeasy at JFK?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, like JFK.
I went there once just for the experience. I thought it was gonna be cooler than it was. To be honest, I hope they come at me and they want to sponsor the pod.
I think that like that stuff is like, how how many lounges I've been to? I've probably been to 500 lounges over my lifetime.
I will say one thing. This is total digression. I think that there is a huge difference in the way that some of the shower experiences are. And you don't want to be in lounges, but like if I get stuck in one, like I'm between legs, I think some of the shower experiences are wild.
Yeah.
wild. They press your clothes. It's just nuts. Some of the cleanliness, like my wife drives her nuts about the cleanliness thing. I'm like, I just get off an airplane. I'm going to another airplane. Like the soap has got to be clean. So whatever. I'm just going with it.
It's funny you say that because I always have a pair of like called flip-flop equivalent. And like if I ever shower in an airport lounge, like it's in the front of my carry-on. I never take them out because I never know if like I ever need them. I put them on just because you never know who steps foot in those lounges.
No, 100%. But the fact that you can shower in a lounge.
But you're right.
It changes the whole experience.
You know what my pet peeve is with airport lounge showers? Pet peeve. Like probably up there. And it's funny because not enough people talk about this. I sweat a lot, especially I grew up in Florida, like, and it gets so there is no like dehumidifier or like airflow in the freaking airport lounge shower where like
100%. They don't have a fan.
You get out and you are sweating. It's like, why did I just shower?
Okay, we're having an invention. Everyone needs to listen. If you're going to follow Zach, you follow the Points Guy. Thank you for listening to the Keep Hustling podcast. Here's what you got to do. International charger, pair of flip-flops, and some sort of like, Zach's now going to be the guy who's in the shower with like a portable fan that like sucks out the steam.
It's funny because sometimes if I notice that it's like a quieter dead time and I'm like in a shower way at the end and there's like a little door stopper, I will like keep the door open a little bit just to like get some of that airflow out.
Psycho. I totally love that. I cannot say this enough. Thank you for making the time, and thank you for inspiring my hustle. Like just watching you, the amount of travel, the amount of Ubers, and as good as you say the food is,
it's not good. It's really not good.
It is not, right? As good as when you say I hit a gem of an airplane meal, I say like sad. Like this guy, this is
there is no question
beef that wasn't dry.
Yeah, there is no question that even as good as Emirates first class food is, and like it is really good, it is not at home. Like I would so much rather home cooked food than any airline meal any single day of the week.
By the way, just speaking of pet peeves, and then we're going to wrap this up. People who put their feet up on airplanes and don't wear socks.
Disgusting.
Totally disgusting. And then you watch them, they walk on the aisle, on the carpet of the plane, which I don't care what they say, it has not been cleaned. And then they put their feet up like right in front of you. Oh, disgusting. Okay,
you know what's really worse is when you see the people, whether they're wearing socks or no socks, but like they go into the airport, like into the airplane lavatory because
oh my God, disgusting. God. Oh my God.
Oh, horrible.
I will put the socks, like if it's a long flight and I'm like sleeping, I will use the socks that they give you strictly to go to the bathroom. Like if I don't want to put my shoes back on, I'll put the socks that they give you over my socks, bathroom it, and then take the socks off.
I'm still judging you.
Fine. You know what? Fine. Totally fine. You could judge me. So I don't have enough credit cards, wasting money, hoarding points, and
your airplane hygiene is not up to par.
I can't wait till you get stuck next to me once on a plane. I'm just going to play into every single pet peeve of yours. Zach, really, it's been incredible having you on. As you know, we have a closing tradition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational or inspirational quote and what it means to them in their hustle. And so with that, I'll say again, this has been Zach. Thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. No, I mean, this has been great. And like, I think like for me, it's like, I love talking about the things I care most about. And I think like that's really ultimately like, it's all about that hustle. And it's funny, like when you think about like an inspirational quote, I really think back to one, I'm Jewish. I grew up in a pretty traditional household, and I think it came from Pirkei Avot or something like that, around like in a place where there's no man, like be that man or be that person. And to me, that's something I think about all the time. I think like, especially in like my industry where like there are people who are cutting corners, not following all the rules. They are trying to kind of double dip, triple dip in a way that like would make me feel uncomfortable. And, so much more outside of my industry. It's like that I think about a lot is, you want to be that person that people respect and that, very clearly is someone who people look up to. And that to me is like a mantra that I live my life by.
I love that. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. Hustle like crazy, like Zach. Follow the Points Guy and keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.